April 14, 1865, the tragic final hours of Abraham Lincoln. President Abraham Lincoln's assassination is one of the saddest events in American history. Yet, on the morning of April 14, 1865, the president awoke in an uncommonly good mood. One day, less than a week before, on Palm Sunday, April 9, Robert E. Lee, the commander of what remained of the Confederate States Army, surrendered to Ulysses Grant, the commanding general of the Union. The truce reached at the Appomattox Courthouse signed the end of the nation's most destructive chapter, the Civil War. To celebrate, Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln decided to attend the hit comedy, Our American Cousin, which was playing at Ford's Theater. The Lincolns invited General Grant and his wife to attend the play with them. In a cabinet meeting later that morning, General Grant informed President Lincoln that they would not be able to join their first couple, and instead they will be visiting their children in New Jersey. Later, the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, pleaded with Lincoln not to go out that evening, fearing an attempt on the president's life. Stanton was hardly the only presidential advisor against the outing. Mrs. Lincoln almost begged off, complaining of one of her all too frequent headaches, and even President Lincoln said he was tired. Nevertheless, he insisted that an evening of comedy was just the medicine he and his wife needed. Mr. Lincoln, confident that his bodyguards would protect him from any potential harm, shrugged off the warnings and invited Major Henry Rathbone and his fiancée, Clara Harris, to join them for a night at the theater. Lincoln's main bodyguard did not attend the play, and instead, John Parker, a police guard well known for his love of whiskey, protected the president. Parker left his post outside the presidential box during intermission to satisfy an alcoholic craving at the nearby Star Saloon. As the crowd burst into laughter, John Wilkes Booth began to mount the stairs leading up to the second tier of the boxes, where you will find President Lincoln. As Booth makes his way to the presidential box, he is seen, but no one stops him. As he gets behind Lincoln, takes aim and fires. The bullet enters the back of Lincoln's head. Booth dropped the pistol, went to the front of the box, intending to escape, but Major Rathbone jumped from his seat. He grabbed Booth from behind and pulled him back from the railing. Booth twisted around in the Major's grip, and for the first time, the men were face to face. Rathbone lunged at him, and Booth slashed his arm, but forced the killer to the railing. Booth leaps from the box to the stage and makes his escape, disappearing into the night. A doctor in the audience, Dr. Charles Lyell, immediately went upstairs to the box. The bullet had entered through Lincoln's left ear and lodged behind his right eye. He was paralyzed and barely breathing. He was carried across State Street to a boarding house opposite the theater. But the doctor's best effort failed. 9 hours later, at 7:22 a.m. on April 15th, Lincoln died. This next part is a quote from Dr. Curtis, who performed the autopsy of President Abraham Lincoln. From the cavity of the skull, suddenly, the bullet dropped out through my fingers and fell, breaking the solemn silence of the room with its clatter, into an empty basin that was standing beneath. There it laid upon the white china a little black mass no bigger than the end of my finger, dull, motionless, and harmless, yet the cause of such mighty changes in the world's history as we may perhaps never realize. This summer, my husband and I took a trip to Washington, D.C., and as you see, Ford's Theater was one of our stops. It's one thing to read about a place in a history book, but quite another to see it in real life. The theater was gorgeous, and for a moment I felt like I went back in time. And the Petersons' house was a fascinating place to visit as well.
Oh, it is bigger than I imagined and more breathtaking. Am I on the wrong side? Oh, you only can go one way. I'm here with my favorite tourist for our last stop in Washington, D.C. And it is magnificent. So magnificent. I didn't want to leave. We're going to skip the Capitol because we had to make a choice. What would be our last stop? And we chose this one over the Capitol. Another time to see the Rotunda and Washington's apotheosis and deification. For now, I think we made the right decision. This is breathtaking. It's so much larger than you could imagine. Let's get a reference for size. Wow. Was my thumb in the way?